I believe that we'll be able to actually create like a large scale predictive analytic coaching platform that will know you and help you achieve your goal and have low chances of failure.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Joel Irway here. Welcome to another very special episode of Experts Unleashed. I'm really excited today. Today, I've got my good friend Maneesh Sethi on our call, and Maneesh is the founder and CEO of a hardware company called Pavlok. Now, Pavlok helps people break bad habits and establish new healthy habits. I not invested into Pavlok. I purchased a Pavlok probably about 2 to 2.5 years ago, and have been following Maneesh for a while. And we've met up in person. He actually, he's one of those remote nomads that lives all over the world. And back in September of last year, he decided to fly and come meet me in Niagara Falls. Just kidding. He was coming in for a conference, but I wanted to make myself feel really good. But we met up in person. He's an awesome guy, and he's doing some amazing things in the world. And so I wanted to have him on the show, because it's not very often that we get hardware entrepreneurs on this show. Maneesh, welcome, my man.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So, Maneesh, why don't you give us a little bit of background about Pavlok, the journey. I would love for you to tell the initial story of the person. Yeah. Maybe this is part of the story. I'm not sure.
I'll tell you the story.
You know what I'm talking about. So let's start.
So I'll give you a short version. So 6 million years ago, the human species evolved, right? I'm just kidding. And when I grew up in California, my name is Maneesh, and I'm the son of 2 immigrants from India. And so as a first generation kid, we have an interestingly different culture. And I grew up surrounded by siblings. One of my brother is Maneesh Sethi, you might know from the website I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And so, Indian families have a very big push towards doing stuff. It's very weird. It's something very interesting. And as I grew up, when I was younger, I was like 12 and 11 and 10, and my parents made it very important that we would start making money. I don't know, it was just entrepreneurship was built into us. And so I started buying video games on some website and then reselling them on eBay. And I would do it for profit. And one of the games came opened once, and I decided to install it. And it was Age of Empires. And I never really played games before, but I fell in love with this game. And so I started playing this game, and I wanted to start making my own games. So I started buying books by authors who had written about how to make games. And I was only 12 or 11, right? And I had no idea what I was doing. I could barely program a computer, but I ended up going to a conference, and I got invited to go there, and I was only 11, and I asked if I could someday write a book about game programming. And the person who ran the conference, my hero, said to me, "I'll never hire anybody who's younger than 25. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You'll never get it done." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, like, this guy was my hero. I looked up to him, and I went to his conference, and then my hero said, "No." And I think a lot of people might get dejected by that. But I'm like 12 years old, and I said, "Fuck you." And I basically put myself in a room with a laptop. It wasn't a laptop, it was a desktop. And I wrote 80 pages in 4 days. And I pretended to be an adult. And I wrote it and sent it above his head. And ended up getting a book deal signed at 13. And I had a book that was released when I was, I think, 15 or 16, called Game Programming for Teens. And that book became a bestseller around the world and was used as a textbook in Poland because it helped young people make video games and was teaching them programming. And I found that really interesting that I wrote 80 pages in 4 days, but once the book deal was signed, it took me about 2 years, 1.5 years to write the next 100 pages. Very weird how that happens, right? When I had a point to prove, then suddenly I executed like nothing, like crazy. And when I didn't, it didn't matter. So fast forward to recently, about in 2012, when I was running a blog called Hack the System, and I was trying to get myself to be more productive. I had grown up with these same experience of having really good ideas, and then when I was told to do something, I would execute really well when there was like these really weird factors, like a competition or a deadline or a bet or a paper was due at midnight. I would execute on it, and it would always be done 1 minute before the deadline. But then as I got older, those deadlines disappear from your life. And suddenly the good habits that, the things that you want to do don't come as automatically. Think about how when you're a kid and you have a writing assignment due, you stress about it, but it gets done. It will get done. But these days, when you're an adult and there's no one holding you accountable, suddenly you want to write an article and nothing gets done. So I decided to do an experimentation series on my blog where I started to try to improve my productivity. I measured it with a metric website tracker. And I hired a girl to follow me around. Every time I went on Facebook or wasted time, she would slap me in the face. And that was the concept of this idea of hack the system, like why I hired a girl to slap me in the face, and how it quadrupled my productivity. And so I did this, and my productivity shot up to like, basically I wrote 4 months of content in 4 days because I was getting slapped. But really it was about having an accountability partner. Having somebody sitting there watching me was like a massive difference between, you know, the idea of, I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to show you the video actually. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, yep, go for it.
Yeah. So it's like here, this is I'm not trying, somebody else made it, we went super viral. And this girl basically slapped me in the face for $8 an hour. And that was basically the idea. But what was really fascinating was how much my productivity skyrocketed. I got 4 months of content written in 4 days by having an accountability partner sitting next to me, by having a person. And she only slapped me once or twice. It was mostly as a joke. The reality of it was that the idea of having somebody that I was working on a project at the same time with became a different experience of doing this action. Suddenly I was like, hey, how does this sound? Could you look up images while I type this text? And because it was like, it made me realize the effect of doing things in a simultaneous way. So when that happened, I got slapped, and I wrote this blog post, and that video you just saw was one of the thousands of videos that were published about my story. Man hires woman to slap him in the face. And anyway, for 3 days, I was famous. I was being called up by companies around the world, by news press around the world, Anderson Cooper, I was on the Colbert Report, Jimmy Fallon. And then 3 days later, I was nobody. Nobody picked up the phone anymore, right? Anderson Cooper stopped replying to my calls. Oh, we've decided to go with a different direction. And so I thought to myself, oh, that's interesting. Well, how do I make this go viral again? Well, getting slapped for going on Facebook was viral. What if I took a dog shock collar and made it zap me every time I went on Facebook? And I called up a friend of mine, and he said, yo, let's go to Radio Shack. And so that was basically, we went to Radio Shack, we ripped apart an old dog collar, we hacked it together with a couple wires so that every time I went on Facebook, it would trigger the remote control to zap me. And I made a video about it, and I was about to post it online. And then I thought to myself, this is actually really interesting. There's a million wearables out there that track what you do, but this one's actually changing what you do. Like maybe there's something there that's more powerful. This combination of a punisher, but also an accountability coach that could really, really help people. And that's where Pavlok was born.
So it's really funny. So it's a brilliant story. Like it's a very, very compelling story, fascinating story. How strong are dog shock collars, by the way? Like,
way 100 times as strong.
It's what I thought. Like they're very painful, very painful. So did you actually shock yourself with one?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll send you the video later. You can see the first prototype of it being made in my friend's apartment, and like it was pretty crazy. And it's very strong, especially at the high levels. And they can deliver continuous voltage, so it's like a zzz, which is the unsafe kind. But ours, as we started to engineer it, we realized that, like, number one, that was way too strong. Number two, anyway, ours is designed to like release an instantaneous pulse, a zap of. So basically, our device this is the Pavlok. So it's a device that you use to change your habits. At its core, it's very simple. It vibrates, beeps, and zaps when told to. That can be, it can also measure your motion and your steps. That's the baseline of it. But when you pair it to the Pavlok app, suddenly the Bluetooth connection makes it very, very interesting. Now it can start training your behavior by rewarding you for doing good behaviors and helping keep you aware by doing bad behaviors. The idea of a zap, I think, has been really ripped apart and considered as a punisher or considered as a shock, which it is not. you felt it. And you know that at the lower levels, especially, it just is like a thing that's like a tap, like it gets your attention. And as it goes higher, it feels a little strong, annoying, aversive, surprising, painful, but it's the kind of pain that goes away instantly.
Yep.
And so what's really powerful about it, and I think the core of what we really want, what we're starting to notice is the real use case of the product, is that it makes you aware. It's like a button you can press to be aware. Like when you meditate, you have to really put effort into focusing on your breath. And if you look under an EEG monitor, you'll see the levels matching, awareness going up when the delta levels drop, and then it drops. And with Pavlok, you'll see exactly the same thing. A zap will instantaneously increase your alpha levels and drop your delta. For the next 10 to 20 seconds, at least, you'll be in a high alert awareness stage. And then for the next 2 to 3 minutes, you'll see effects staying more aware than you were before. So that becomes extremely useful for when you're trying to change your habits. A good one for me is that I just programmed this in yesterday. Every day at every hour on the 15-minute mark, I get a vibration on my wrist and a push notification that says, what would the best version of Maneesh be doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's a small thing, but it starts to add a little bit of, oh, hey, what would I be doing now? Maybe I should close this tab and open this tab, right? Then I realized that my Pavlok Chrome extension is integrated with my lifestyle. So if I go on unproductive websites, it will start to vibrate, beep, and zap to warn me. But anyway, what I'm getting at is we created this tool that has purposes. And it's really interesting and different because probably most of the people who listen to this podcast are people who have their own personal brand. And that was me. Hack the System was Maneesh Sethi brand. I teach you how to be a digital nomad. Hack credit card miles. Yeah, that's me. And then suddenly one of those things took off into an idea, and because of a happenstance, it became a physical product. I never thought in a million years I would make a physical product, much less an electronics Bluetooth product, which is just about the most complex you can do from a small product perspective, consumer perspective. And suddenly everything like fell into place. The fact that nobody knew how to do it meant that it was really hard for me to do it. And because of the sunk cost fallacy, by doing it, I'm stuck. I got to do it. But because it's so hard, that means nobody else is doing it, which means that there's going to be a lot less competition in the marketplace. And as I started to build it, I started to realize that I didn't know what we were making. And now I'm starting to see all of these pieces of my life kind of culminate into this fundamentally different paradigm of you should get rewarded for doing good behaviors, and you should be reminded, made aware, and if necessary, punished for doing behaviors that you want yourself to stop doing. And this, like, that is the core. And the ramifications of that are much, much grander than just a simple product that zaps you. So like, I can tell you about that stuff too, but I'm rambling, so.
Yeah, no, that was, it's fascinating. So tell me, what year was it when this first idea, like, so when the slapping incident happened versus when you sat down and you realized, hey, this could be a product, like what year was that?
Yeah. So, okay. So 2012, December, I had the idea, and the slapping post happened in October 2012. 2 months later, I went to my friend's house in San Francisco, and we went to Radio Shack and made this version. So in January, I said, this is awesome. This is better than me posting it on Facebook. Let me try to make this into a prototype. So I distinctly remember in March of 2013, calling my brother and saying, I really hope I figure out a way that I can get this made, because no one is I can't find anybody. And I have a lot of ideas that are amazing, but I never follow through on, and I think this one might be the best one. I distinctly remember saying that in March. And then in April, I quit. I gave up. I decided not to do this anymore because I couldn't figure out how to get a prototype made. Then in June, randomly, remember that guy, who the author who said, you're not allowed to write books if you're younger than 25?
Yep.
The same guy I hadn't talked to in over a decade popped up on Facebook, and I just messaged him and said hi. And I knew he was a hardware engineer. And I mentioned, oh yeah, I was working on a hardware project a few months ago. Actually, do you have a quick second? I want to ask you a question. Called him up. I said, hey, do you think that there's a way to make this? And he said, actually, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. No VC would ever fund that. You'll never find consumers who would want to buy it. But I
sounds
just
like
got
a
out of,
winner.
but I just got out of a meeting with this incubator called Bolt. They make hardware. They invest in hardware startups and help them build the product from idea to prototype to creation. I can like send you the link, but honestly, I don't think you have a shot. And I was like, all right, you fucktard. Like, I'll go ahead and fucking make sure I do this. So anyway, yeah. So this guy's like a dark angel in my life. He is always there at the most necessary moments to be exactly as horrible as I need him to be. Anyway, because of that, I pitched this incubator, and they invested in the company. And the incubator put me in a room for 1 year with other hardware engineers that helped me do it. So that was why I had the ability to, because I absorb information really well. I'm very ADHD, and I am really good at idea driving and creativity, but I'm quite bad at execution or follow through. Yep. And so creating systems around that is like the most ADHD thing in the world is Pavlok. Like a regular person gets off Facebook. They want to get off Facebook, they turn off Facebook. But only I hire someone to slap me in the face and then replicate it as a dog shock collar that'll zap me every time I get on Facebook, and then distribute that to the world so that I don't have to solve my own problem as long as I'm solving it for everybody else, right? So it's like a very funny thing where focus is a good, but it's also a bad, because the opposite of focus is creativity. And people who have high levels of conscientiousness, follow through, focus, have low levels of inherent creativity. And I've started to realize that there's a superpower in accepting and leaning into the ADHDness or the lack of focus with a very deep understanding of who you are and who your team is. Because suddenly you can start doing things at scale, which is how our brains are designed. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So, it's funny how, like, everyone's progression is different. Everyone's journey is different. That's the whole purpose of this show, is to explore the journeys of, you know, successful companies, successful entrepreneurs. And so this is back in 2012, 2013, when you go through this cycle of the idea, then you quit, then you find this dark angel, and you not find him, but you speak to your dark angel again, who ends up giving you the into this this incubator. Out of curiosity, so obviously this guy didn't like it. But the incubator must have loved it, right? Because they accepted you. So what was their general opinion?
So they told me later. So they had, when I got there, I felt really, really dumb, because I got there and everybody was like engineers and had prototypes. And so they said that they had 7 slots for their first team, their first one. And they wanted a B2B company, they wanted a B2C company, they wanted a SaaS hardware company, and they wanted a wild card. And I was the wild card. I was the random dude with a marketing background who had a cool idea but no experience with hardware. I was that guy. So out of 700 people, I was one of the 7 people chosen. So I got very lucky there. But I think that there's something to be said about having crazy ideas and actually just making stuff. Because I'll tell you this, man. So since I got back to the US, I've on an Amazon binge, because I haven't had Amazon access for the last 2 years, or last year or so. And so like check that out. Someone sleeps on that bed. Someone sleeps on that bed. I gotta fix that, like today. That's on my to-do list. And so, oh, that's no good. Sorry, I just spilled my something, so it's not a big deal. Not fine. So we were saying that I just got distracted. What was I just talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so we're just talking about like.
Oh yeah, seeing the world in a different way. I was saying that like, I think that a lot of people's mindsets are really, really stunted. And I think that even looking at myself, since before Pavlok, everything was idea. We could do all these things. And then Pavlok started and it was ideas. And then we released it and it was all about like, we got to stop talking about ideas. We need to fix these bugs. We need to make this work. We need to support these customers. We need to figure out fulfillment and inventory and shipping. And so only very recently have I started to dream again, because we've gotten to the part where I start to think out loud, start to think about ideas, because we're running smoothly now. And suddenly I'm starting to see all of the value that I can start adding into the life. And I think that there's this core concept of the idea of loops. So the framework I'm talking about is we all live in habits. We all do stuff repeatedly, right? And many of us want to change those habits. And all of us would like to do good habits. And so the concept that I believe at the end point is we should all be rewarded for doing good habits. In the same way that like in a video game, people get addicted to video games, right? And that's a bad. But if they play those Wii Fitness video games, that's a good, right? There's a way to do that across the board for humans. And so with that context of how do we reward it, how do we reward people, we start to dive into like the idea of how does a human being change their behavior. And I believe that behaviors are broken down by this concept of loops. So the majority of our days are run in a complete loop structure. And there are specific items that trigger loops to start. The most common ones are gonna be like the morning or when you get to work and other loops. So when I when I take a left at work, I will see a Starbucks. When I see the Starbucks, I will think, I'm hungry. When I think, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go into Starbucks and order this item. And therefore my sugar balance will increase. And because of that, when I get to work, I will want this, and this becomes the path of my day. And I believe that these loops govern our life. And I started to notice that when people start to make changes, I'm sure you've done it recently with your business, and you start to notice this power of momentum, that a small change makes everything happen. And then if you give up early on, it falls backwards. But if you stay on and get a team assembled around it, such that there's a system and a process, then it's like you move up another block, you know, and like the block is, you don't fall backwards. And so I think that concept that this loops runs through companies, it runs through cultures, it runs through governments, but it most importantly runs through individuals. And I think that there's a specific way to break out of these loops. And I think the core of it comes down with awareness. So if you have, like here's a good example. Last night I was on my internet until literally like 3:30 a.m. And what was I doing? It doesn't matter, I don't even know. And I'm on my internet until 3:30 a.m. and suddenly I hear a sound, and it's the dog in the other room, like going, oh, and he gets up and I'm like, oh no, he's awake. And I don't want to make a sound because he made a sound. And then now I'm being quiet and I turn off my laptop and I go to bed. And I'm like, the fuck just happened, right? Like, how come he didn't do that 3 hours earlier? That would have made a better day, right? Why is there no pattern interrupt throughout my day? So what I'm trying to get to is a structure in where we allow users to be, to define what goals they have. Then we start to baseline understand these customers, baseline understand your habits. And we've broken down individuals into a section of 5 different attributes. Think of it like skill tree characters on an avatar. And like, you want to focus on your body metrics being healthy. You want to focus on your mindfulness being healthy. You want to focus on your cravings being low, and a couple other items as well, exercise activity and your sleep activity. And those metrics kind of become the baseline for your health. We do a baseline period for the first week, and then we now have our coach begins to introduce you to a experiment we think you should test. So, hey, we notice that you're eating, and to clarify, everything that we're doing right now is around the habit of mindless eating, unhealthy eating. That's the one that's our big COVID one. And so here's the concept, and here's what we're trying to build. So it's like, imagine this. When people buy a Pavlok right now, you buy a Pavlok, you instantly get a text message saying, hey, please set up your phone call with the Pavlok coach. You have your phone call, hopefully by the time the device arrives and you use it for a week. And during that week, you're doing your baseline. So you have a daily survey where you fill out like, how happy are you? How excited are you? How productive do you feel? You track your sleep with the Pavlok. You track your specific attributes with the Pavlok, and everything else is automatic. With that baseline, we now know who you are. We found that the majority of people who have trouble with unhealthy eating almost always have sleep problems, almost always. And the other people who have trouble with it, it's due to stress/mindfulness. And so almost always the cure that we're noticing, people who come to us have tried diet and they've tried exercise and it hasn't worked. And they never think about anything else. They just try another diet, they try another diet, they try another diet. But not almost all of the users' highest correlation towards losing weight is from sleep. And so what we basically have people do is then suggest an experiment. Once the coach, you do it on a phone call. And once they do, they accept the experiment and they do it for a few days. And then we measure again the same metrics to see how it affects you. And based on those experimental results, we start to add a few more experiments. Basically, there's 5 experiments over the period of a month until you've reached the end of the unhealthy eating journey. And that's the concept of you've now developed up the skill point for your craving level. So that's kind of the concept of what we're building for the first month of the user journey before they get into the month 2, which is Volts time.
Yeah, I mean, so at what point, what's really fascinating about this, and we've kind of had this conversation a couple of times over the years, but like, you know, at what point does somebody get rid of their old habits and then use Pavlok to develop better habits? Like in your customer journey, like where does that happen?
Great question. So the way I'm looking at it is this. The way I look at it is this. It's obvious that many people will use our product for many different use cases. You've seen it with sleep and all these other things. And now that we're making it more easy to wear, for example, this is the Apple Watch and this is the Pavlok 3, and it mounts directly on the Apple Watch, so you can't. So it becomes part of the experience. So it looks like that, and it has also 3 buttons, so you can vibrate for positive and negative, so you can track your positive thoughts and emotions. And so your question is the user journey. How do they care about good habits? Or especially when I message people like my mom, and she's like, "I don't have any bad habits to change." I'm like, "Okay, I love you, Mom." And so here's the answer. The thing is that those people and a lot of people don't want to buy a product that will help them change their bad habits. Even if they do want to change a habit, they don't feel comfortable asking for help. They don't want to wear something on their wrist that does that. So there's 2 parts. So the core answer is I don't believe our product should be the solution to bad habits. I believe that that's the entry point for our current stage of customer. But what I believe is that what happens next is the important point, which is where we reward you for doing good habits. So the idea of nudging people to actually doing good habits through actual cash. So the way that I'm designing this out is that as users go through their first month journey, each journey for whatever habit or avatar will be customized for what their goal is. If you buy Pavlok to stop unhealthy eating, that's different than sleeping, which will be different than productivity, which might be different than your smart home Alexa integrated wearable. And when you buy the device, you'll download a special app for that use case. And that app will take them through their journey for the first month. But once they, and at each stage of the journey, as it already happens, users unlock volts, which are these points we have in the app that are points that they earn for doing good habits. So they look like here's like a live feed of people earning volts in the app right now.
Yep.
And I just pushed a button and I just sent good vibes to this person. So that person just got a vibration on their wrist and a notification that says, Maneesh sent you good vibes. So users are already earning these volts for doing habits. And in this journey, users will earn these volts. When they get to the end of the journey, we basically unlock or unveil the Pavlok world. And we've been basically designing, I mean, it's still in idea mode and still in generation mode. But the general concept is you have an avatar. Your avatar is has a face. The avatar has, it unlocks points and grows as you do good habits. We have a skill tree based on the 5 habit attributes I told you about. And at each stage, users earn volts daily for doing good behaviors. Now, once you get to that first month, that second month, we unlock the value of those volts. So what we do, or our plan is to do, is to mail you, boy, I hope I have my wallet in this room. Oh no, it's in the other room. I will show you a version that doesn't have the, this one doesn't have the logo. But basically, we're shipping credit cards to our subscribers. So this is a full credit card, a Visa card, and users will be able to redeem these volts for actual cash. So the way we're designing this out is that we have a subscription model where users, right now we have a subscription model where users can pay basically a rental, pay full price or pay $30 a month. Instead, we're switching it, or we will switch it when the time is right, to users can pay for the Pavlok to buy it or pay $30 a month to get paid for their good habits. And so basically, as they do good behavior, they'll be shipped a credit card. As they do good behaviors, they'll earn volts. If they do just good behaviors only 20, 25 days in a row, of the month, they'll earn enough to make the next month be free. From that, the rest of it on top of it, they can use to earn more extra points. They can also bet that against other users with challenges, like I commit to doing 300 push-ups tomorrow or 100 push-ups tomorrow, or else I lose the volts to all the people who succeeded. So you can earn more faster. With those volts, you're going to be able to now spend them in the Pavlok store on Pavlok hardware or Pavlok partner products at really good transaction values. Or you can redeem it for credit, which will go directly to your credit card and convert it to cash at a lower transaction value that you can use at any store anywhere that Visa is accepted. Oh. And therefore, if you do good habits, you will actually get paid real money for doing good habits.
Man, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking interesting. The credit card changed it. It changed the game when I realized we could do that. Because before I remember I talked about volts and you needed a crypto and you needed to have like a NFC so you could deliver the. Now it's just done with points. It's a loyalty program. Now our competitor is no longer like Bitcoin. The competitor is AmEx rewards. And I'm actually modeling the whole thing off of AmEx. You earn points for doing good habits that are AmEx points, essentially exactly equivalent. And if you spend on a credit card, you'll also earn points. And the idea there is that basically we're able to opt everybody loves frequent flyer miles, but you have to get a credit card to sign up for it. But what if you could be a kid in Africa and sign up for a credit card, a Visa that you earn money on for just walking steps? You know, the potential is there with even just virtual cards where you can deliver. And so anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that I think that there's a fundamental new revolution in the world. We all can see it, that something's wrong, right? And the big thing that's wrong is that one thing is that the market is going up right now at the same time that there's like really bad jobs and a really bad economy visually, right? That doesn't make any logical sense unless you look at the fact that we just dumped a shit ton of fake money into the quantitative easing method, right? So then it makes a lot of sense. Like there's enough money in the world to support the market, even though the average person is screwed. It's just that like a lot of money is going from the government to support the market, right? So therefore, there's a lot of money in the world. And if you've seen my TEDx talk, you've seen what I'm talking about. My point is that we live in a world no longer of scarcity. We live in a world of abundance. The world that we live in has changed. And in the way that until 1950, the average person could only find 1,800 calories a day. And now the average person eats 2,700 to 3,000 calories a day. The average person is obese, not under eating. We live in a world of abundance. Now, money as a concept is you get paid when someone else wants you to do something. That's the concept we have, right? You get paid because somebody else wants you to do something or wants something from you. And that makes a lot of sense in a scarcity economy. When you have eggs and I have wheat, it makes sense to trade it for something that is a scarce commodity. But in a world of abundance, in a world where we have too much money, it just gets distributed improperly. That doesn't make sense anymore. Instead, we shouldn't get paid for what other people want us to do because other people don't need us anymore. Everybody's abundant on their own. We should get paid for what we want ourselves to do. We should get paid for sticking through with the good habits that we want ourselves to do or we know are good habits, right? And even financially, if you want to look at it that way, like if you are healthy now, you're going to cost less in the long run for healthcare. So even mathematically, the numbers work out. But if you could, but humans don't work that way. Humans only work on a very specific incentive structure. If your dog gets a treat 30 minutes after they do something, the dog will never connect the dots. If you get rewarded 2 weeks after doing something, the tax refund does not correlate to the action you did. We did an experiment with this about getting zapped on Facebook. We had people get zapped when they landed on Facebook, and they got zapped either after the page loaded, before the page loaded, or as they typed FA into the toolbar. And we found that after the page loaded, an average of 7 seconds, people would basically not change their habits. They would just click faster, really. They ended up clicking around faster. Before the page loaded, it took about 6 or 7 days before you saw a real significant drop. But when it was as people typed in FA, which was like instantaneous, it took minutes before people just stopped typing in FA, right? And because they never started that loop, the loop never closed to where they got on Facebook and then the next loop started, right? The loop was broken in the initial stage. And so I think that in the same way, if we reward people, if we can, here's basically it. I believe that we've figured out a way that we can actually create new money and give it to people in a seamless, frictionless way, right? And I believe that money is a story that's told every time a transaction takes place. And if money is a story, and if now anybody can create new money, new stories, then he who has the best story should win. And I believe that the story of you as an individual getting paid for doing the good behaviors that you culturally and deeply ingrained in your psyche want yourself to do but have trouble doing. I believe that if you can, if you were to get paid, right, then you would be way more likely to do those behaviors. Mm-hmm. And I believe that I've figured out the way to actually deliver that reward, cash, as a way to drive good behaviors at scale. And I want to prove this out, but I think that the long run of what I'm trying to do here is allowing a large percentage of users essentially to stop worrying about what you just said, replacing a bad habit with a good habit, or just stopping a bad habit. Bro, do eat all the sugar you want if you're earning 10,000 volts a day because you walked over 12 miles, like eat the sugar if you know what I mean? Like, that's not the core problem, because if you sleep enough, and if you meditate, and if you walk, what are the chances you're gonna binge on the sugar? It's pretty low, right? Like, you're not gonna have the cravings, you're gonna be self-aware. And so I think that the mistake I made is not really, like, the mistake I made was like not really going all in on bad habit cessation. Aversion works, but like that's different than reducing cravings. And all of those are different than everything else we do. And so we got so flummoxed and confused, but really it's an emergent phenomenon of this product being like a remnant of my brain. It's like different pieces are being made across over the last 5 years that all kind of work and are cool, but they're cool and they let me show off to people like the cool feature we built, but we don't integrate them. So the users never see them. But now finally, we're at that point where all of the foundational structures, and if you guys ever build anything bigger than a self-run business, you'll see this with teams, building these foundational structures where the systems start to self-perpetuate. And it's magical to watch yourself walk away and stuff deliver. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so your journey with Pavlok has gone through a lot of different iterations, and you were also on Shark Tank, and you had a pretty interesting, you were just the king of virality. I think you were born to be viral, right? Wow. And so even like where you're at today with Pavlok is a vastly different product than what it was when you first started. And that's why I love your story, because number one, you never gave up on it. You haven't yet given up on it. You almost did, but it's gone through so many different iterations. You're basically creating a market that never existed before, which is the most difficult thing to do in business, right? When did the Shark Tank incident happen? Like how?
Yeah, Shark Tank sucks. So it happened. I started the company August 2013. It took us until November 2014 until we had a prototype and we were ready for our crowdfunding campaign. Shark Tank pitched us, and then in September 2015, we had our Shark Tank filming. Yep. So we had already gotten the crowdfunding campaign to be complete, and we had pre-sales for 9 months, and we had the final version done, but we were not shipping for 1 more month until after Shark Tank, about 2 weeks after Shark Tank. And so we filmed it basically then. We had already had $1 million in sales and funds, and went on the show, pitched it. By the time it aired, which was 7 months later, we had already shipped Pavloks and we're doing another campaign for Shot Clock. And that came out in 2016.
Yep. And so that was version 1 then, right? Version 1 of Shark Tank?
Pre-version 1, yeah, exactly. Yep.
So for those who are listening right now, like the Shark Tank, your Shark Tank experience was notorious because you actually turned down the sharks. You just turned down Mr. Wonderful, right? And then it just kind of all blew up. What have you learned? What happened because of that situation? Like, did that have a positive or negative effect on the company? Did it spark any new developments, any new ideas? Did you have any pivots because of Shark Tank?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Before Shark Tank, we were a cool new idea that hadn't yet delivered a product. And so it's really fun to run that company because you talk about what it could do. And so we were getting a lot of sales and positive press, and people were trying it because of the cool factor. And we were selling quite well. I mean, yeah, for where we were. And then we went on Shark Tank. And so that same month, so basically, I'll just tell you our numbers. So around that time, we were probably doing like, I don't know, maybe 15, let's say $20,000 a week on Shopify, maybe 18 or so, okay? And we were doing that much a week on Shopify. So that month, earlier in the month, we were on a small article in the New York Times was written that was positive about us because a girl lost 60 pounds with our product and then another person quit smoking. And that small, tiny blurb got us like $120,000 in sales. So that was like the best day we've ever had. And that was awesome, right? So then Shark Tank came up and I thought it was going to be similar times 10. We ended up having a very negative Shark Tank experience. So a 6 million viewed episode, huge viewership numbers, season finale. And we ended up doing in the next 3 days from Shark Tank, we did 45K. So we did 2 weeks of revenue from Shark Tank. So it wasn't that good. It wasn't bad. I mean, it's not bad to take an extra 30K, but it's not that good comparatively to New York Times. But what also happened was the negative Amazon fake reviews. So 28 or 38 people, somewhere between 28 and 38 people came in on Amazon and left 1-star fake Amazon reviews that were totally false. And you'll actually, if you go on Amazon today, I just saw one yesterday because every time they re-air on CNBC, new people leave these fake reviews. And our score on Amazon plummeted from 4.8 to 2.9 like instantly. And now people's intention, like imagine you're searching for a product. What do? You search review. You look at the review and you look on Amazon, and if it has 2 stars or 3 stars, you're like really unlikely to buy it. Oh, I'm unlikely to buy it. In fact, I'm surprised people buy it at like when it was that low. So that was really difficult for us because now no longer were people buying our product on the strength of the idea, but now they were not buying it on the failures of falsehoods. But the worst part was that those falsehoods were not so false. But yes, they were wrong that our product was a scam, but they were not wrong that we had really fundamental Bluetooth issues and really fundamental pairing issues. And so it really, like at that point, and at this point, money is a concern at the company. We have staff, we have inventory, we have hardware. It was the time where I took my ENTP idea goggles off and I said to myself and the company very, very clearly, we'll talk about ideas when we have a goddamn working company. But for right now, we need to focus on no more ideas. Let's focus on supply chain, inventory, functionality. And so the good and the bad are the same. Rationally, I wish I could go back on Shark Tank and do it again. I know exactly how I failed, and I know the story I should have told, and what I told was wrong. But on the other hand, at the end of the day, like that's a stepping stone. And if that is the reason my company tanks, then that means that my company wasn't going to succeed. Plus, I'm kind of like looking forward to making Mark Cuban my mortal enemy, like publicly. I really think he would be a lot of fun to become public enemies with. So that's my goal.
Man, you think you are a marketer at heart. You are a marketer.
Oh yeah, I just like doing cool shit that people remark about. I like people talking about cool stuff I do. That's like when people ask like why do you do what you do, and a lot of people are like, oh, I want to help people or I want to drive people, and I was like, what is my why? And the only true why I think is that things must be fucking awesome, right? Like I want to make things that make people go, whoa, show me that. And I think that I'm starting to, and I think that like the kind of like that personality type, ENTP 7 on Enneagram is me. That like type, my type has great ideas, but rarely ever gets it done. We have like the second lowest salary of all personality types. And if you compare my type ENTP with my brother's type ENTJ, 1 letter difference, but I'm the lowest and he's the highest. And because he has ideas that are rational, but he finishes them. And I have ideas that are rational and great ideas, but I don't finish them. And so the difference though is that the top tier ENTPs are the ones who fundamentally are also not just rich, but also fundamentally change the world. So like Jobs or Edison or Franklin, these people who made multiple inventions in multiple industries that all cross-correlated and created like fundamental societal shifts are more often than not ENTPs. And so I think the type of personality that I am, this creative ADHD type, is the opposite of this engineering execution finisher type. And the kind of person who makes consumer electronics, or the kind of person who makes physical hardware products, or the kind of person on average who makes a company, is the kind of person who is not going to be the creative, idea, lackadaisical, lazy person type B, but it's going to be the kind of person who finishes, executes, and does stuff. And so the rare person like me, who's lucky enough to somehow get put into a situation where they're forced to construct a team that self-sustains and allows them to keep having new ideas that actually get executed upon. By creating, like the rare ones who get there end up creating innovative ideas that the other people can only follow. That's why you look at like Apple comes out with the iPhone, which is a great design. And if you go look at a store today, 11 years later in the like most innovative of times, every phone is identical to the exact same first iPhone. They all look the same. You telling me that that's the best ever interface ever we can ever make? Bullshit, right? But it's because the guy who was innovative is dead and everybody else is a follower. So everybody else just does what Apple does and makes it, and Apple just does what Apple does, but thinner, right? And so once somebody else walks into that market and I'm like, oh, hey, guess what? You're actually going to get paid for using this product. And this product is actually going to limit your access to your Apple iPhone. And like figuring out how to re-envision a way to appropriate like this to deliver value. I think that if I'm right, if I get to the next stage in the level, it's going to be really cool because now I'm starting to see all of the ideas and everything I want to implement rapidly. And I'm realizing that once you have a hub, like once you have that hub, people will look out for those things. If Pavlok is a hub similar to Alexa, I went on my Alexa app and there's like, oh, you want a microwave? Oh, do you want these smart plugs? It makes a lot of sense that it's really hard to start a microwave company. I want to make a Pavlok fridge that locks at 8 p.m. and you can't open the food after 8 p.m., right? But starting a fridge company is fucking stupid. But if we have a Pavlok user base and a fridge company sees that, and with small integration, now we are able to deliver people who want self-control as a 0 to 1 like organization. I think there's just infinite potential, and it's crazy to watch it happen because it's like watching it happen. You know, it's like I've been talking about it for years, but now it's actually happening, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah. Well, you also have the self-awareness. Like one of the things you said, even about the Shark Tank incident, you said, if my company failed because of Shark Tank, that just means my company was going to fail anyway. Yeah. And that's a huge insight. Like that's a huge, I guess, like that's a big deal. That shows a lot about you as the founder to recognize, man, we had fundamental issues. Like, okay, fine, we got bad press from this one incident, but if that crippled us, that meant that it was just gonna cripple us faster, because ultimately it relies on, you have to deliver a good product. You have to
deliver a good product, man. Yeah, like the thing that actually I think you do, and the problem that everybody in this space online is that everyone talks about the marketing and no one talks about the product, because you can't really teach product, or maybe you can, but people don't teach it because it's not sexy. And like at the end of the day, like if I sell a shocking device that is a novelty, it's a one-off big press event and then it goes away. But if it's a shocking device that's a novelty, but then once you put it on, it becomes part of your daily routine in life. Suddenly, the cool factor is the lead gen for the sticky product. But no marketing will ever make up for a lack of a sticky product. And so like, I mean, you can make enough money to survive. Like you can make 5, 10K a month, sure, as like a shitty making, bad stuff, but bad quality stuff. But for quality purposes, you need to like really, I don't know, it's like getting to a growth stage requires just a different mindset. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to be the growth company though. The company that only focuses on growth doesn't focus on customer support. I was reading some of my customer surveys the other day, or it was actually earlier today, of somebody who joined my high ticket courses program. He goes, yeah, it seems like you care about your products and you're not the Comcast of the information marketing world, where you're just focusing on acquiring new customers, but have zero customer support. I thought that's a great analogy.
Yeah, customer support is so important too, because also you can actually get better like people like you more if they have a problem with their product and you support them. Like we've had a lot of, like we have this issue where if you get a product wet, or it'll just stop zapping, and it's like not okay. It should be waterproof. So we offer as an exchange. And so now we just default, like if someone comes in and they're like, hey, it's not zapping, we're like, hey, try a hard reset. Did that work? No. Okay, we'll send you an exchange. And they're like, whoa, really? Like, you're gonna send me a free one? And we're like, yeah, it's in the mail. Just put the old one in the envelope and mail it back. It's already prepaid. And they actually like us more because the product broke, Yep. And so you can use that as a really potential option. But I wanted to mention a couple things that were really insightful in the last few weeks that I've done that your users might be interested in. So a couple things was the focus on, rather than, I think there's two different personalities of people who are entrepreneurs. One is my type, which you can hear me going on threads and tangents and ideas. It's like a branching tree structure, both in talking and in my mind. Everything starts two other things and they start a lot. And that's different than finishers who have this like execution mindset of doing stuff differently. So when I talk about advice and stuff that I'm talking about, it's coming from my perspective, and it's probably different than for some people. But here, some people are gonna be like, "This is stupid. Why did you not do this forever? You're dumb, Maneesh." And here's a good example. Tell me how fucking stupid this is, Joel. Tell me if this is not the stupidest thing you ever heard. So, starting about a month or two ago, I started to decide that we're no longer gonna just do the way I do stuff, which is have an idea, tell our developer, let's get it designed, let's make it, and instead take a deep breath and start interviewing our customers and asking them what they're buying it for. I hired a product manager, and she started teaching me about the concept of product management, about asking customers, surveying, turning that into a user journey, and then turning that into a user flow, into a user journey, and then turning that into a wireframe, then a wireframe into a design, and how those are very different things. And it started to all click. And then it's like, oh my God, we need a product management system. So we finally built that out. And once we had that, now we could start to support hiring new people because I actually knew what they were doing. And so these things start to create momentum and grow. And so these what I found was really valuable were these calls. So starting off tactically, we've always been really bad at talking to our customers. We've just never done it. And so finally, we had to interview these customers. So I set up a trigger. So it SMS'd people 10 minutes after they bought a Pavlok, asking them to book a call with me. And suddenly they were booking calls, And because it was already on my calendar, I had to do them. So now the momentum was accidentally created, that loop was invented. I never did more than a call a day ever. And suddenly I had 4 the next day, and it was repeating. And that loop of phone calls became a consistent loop of phone calls because I started to notice it's the same as the slapper. If you do things at the same time simultaneously, you get 10x done versus not doing it on your own. So basically, we started getting these customers to come on phone calls and then interviewing them before they got the product, and then asking them on the call, scheduling another follow-up call 7 days later. And on that follow-up call, we have a very direct, distinct section where we say, we are going to begin asking you for a testimonial. And then we have them record the testimonial and timestamp it in the Google Doc so we can automatically cut them, And so now basically every customer has an interview on day 1 and an interview on day 7, and 90% of those leave us with a testimonial. And the key part here was, holy shit, the problems people were having on day 1 were so stupid. I cannot believe it's been 4 years and we've never fixed this. So you might even know the answer, but this is what we consistently get this question. It's day 1, I put my Pavlok on, and it just keeps vibrating and beeping and zapping, and it won't stop. It's going crazy. I think the device is broken. Do you know what you would do to diagnose that with your Pavlok?
I don't.
So hand detect is enabled. If you have hand detect enabled, that means that when you bring your hand to your face, it vibrates. But also if you set it down a specific way, it will be triggering these things. And every time someone asks us, we're always like, oh yeah, of course, just turn off hand detect. It's an obvious answer. And the person always feels like it's their fault, like they're stupid. Because it does say that and stuff, but if 3 out of the 10 phone calls on one day are the same problem, and that problem is really annoying. Imagine you bought a product and it starts just shocking all the time. And it's been 4 years. That means probably 30 to 50% of our customers have just never used it again, So my point here is that using SMS to get a call scheduled after purchase seems to be really effective. And getting calls on day one seems to be really powerful. And it really only takes a few days of calls to get a lot of value that you understand what to fix, improve, and those customers become testimonial users. So if I could go back in time and do anything, I would focus more on my metrics being around getting potential sales and actual customers on phone calls. And that's the real metric, because a lot of the other stuff could be busy work.
Yeah, product management is, I mean, it's going to be called it'll be called different things in different industries. Like, I don't think I would ever call it product management in my industry, but it's the same thing. Speaking to your customers, figuring out where the stick points are, where they're getting stuck, figuring out why they're not using it or why they're not getting results. Super, super important. We started doing it about 8 months ago. We just had a survey immediately after they bought, and we got so much market data. Like, it's marketing information, it's product information. But yeah, I mean, it's going that extra mile, man. It's going the extra mile and trying to figure out these hidden problems that you don't see because you think it's very obvious. But we just pick up the phone and start talking to the customers. Like, it's a huge, huge game changer.
It's a game changer, and it's very valuable. Yeah, and it's like funny because if we had done it years ago, we would have solved these problems. So and I don't know, man. And I've also noticed there are specific hires which have 10x'd our progress. So like hiring a product manager, game changer. Hiring a new designer, game changer. And like these bottlenecks could have been solved 3 years ago, but for whatever reason, I resisted hiring. And I'm starting to notice that, like, of course, accepting cash shortages. If you're not looking for hiring, then you're not looking for problems that you're having that you would like replaced. And like, I'm starting to notice right now, it's like, now that remote is becoming so real, and like, dude, the value of having people just do anything. Like, I ask any question, like, hey, can you make my site speed up? I post on Facebook and I get someone who will just do it, and I give them my Calendly, and then they schedule a call, and I'm just like, fucking do it, just do it. And like, it gets done. And so it's so rapid, man. It's momentum. It's just momentum. It's the loop of momentum. I'm like, I'm scared because every time you travel, loops break, and like, I'm probably gonna travel, and like, then like, what happens there? But like, if we can solve this problem fundamentally, I think that like the interesting part, and you've seen this, is that no one is looking at the problem that I'm looking at. And it's so weird because it's right in front of everyone's face, right? Everyone's building these cool trackers. Everyone's building these cool sensors. You go to Google Analytics, right? You have that on your phone?
Yep.
Do you ever, you go there and you land on the homepage, and it's a shit ton of data. And it's like, what do I do with this? And I'm like, oh, I look at real time. Oh, okay. And at the top right, there's those recommendations. And if you click it, it tells you recommendations. What if you flip that? What if when you went to Google Analytics, on the main screen, it had your recommendations, and it had a checkbox, and it only turned off when you press the check, right? And you click the top right to see all the data. Now, suddenly your default product is telling you what to do, not showing you what has been done, right? And that contextual mindset, I think, is everything about Pavlok, where it's like other products are letting you use it the way you want to. And we're saying, look, dude, we want to understand you better than you know yourself, so that we can tell you more about yourself, so that you can achieve the goals. But don't even worry about achieving the goals, because once we know about who you are, we'll make it happen. Like, it's just going to happen. But specifically, not about tracking, but using the info to affect change. That problem, I don't know why people are not approaching that problem, because it's not an unsolvable problem. And I'm so interested in it because it's that 0-1 mindset that I feel like it feels like I'm either a genius or fucking stupid, because like, there's not a single competitor I can name who's a real competitor. Like, people will always say things like Fitbit or Apple Watch, and our corporate value is never attack, always attach. And that's why Pavlok, instead of competing against the Apple Watch, now will mount to the Apple Watch, right? And so all of these things are just fascinating, because I don't know, I just feel like it's like sometimes good idea. I don't know. It's just fun to watch it happen, because it's crazy and it's emergent. Yeah.
Yep. It really is. Like, when you start to develop a brand, you start to develop an ecosystem, you start to develop a life. And watching that come alive is really, really exciting. We're experiencing it in our own company. We talked about this before the call, but it's fun, man. When you start to build that culture, you start to build that ecosystem, and people are getting results from what you're building, and they're loving it and they're sharing it. And I mean, there's a lot of reward in that. There's a lot of reward in that.
Dude, yeah. And the way I'm looking at it is like, if I got this right, like if you can make it sexy, if you can make it track cool stuff, if you can make it valuable, like imagining that Alexa integration is built into it, and make it useful so you can, like, one thing I've always wanted, I have all these smart plugs, right? But I have to say, Alexa, do these, turn on or turn off this plug, and I can't remember the name, and it's a hassle and it's loud, right? Why can't I just point my Pavlok at the sensor, and if it could use IR, infrared, to turn on or turn off a switch, right? Like you could imagine, at least like I could imagine myself getting pretty used to turning on and off stuff using my wrist, right? And you could also, as a double, use that as worldwide Pavlok laser tag, because if you can hit anybody else's Pavlok, you could win volts from them, right? Tell me that's not fucking fun. But but so it's like, it's cool because I'm like looking at this as me, right? I'm this crazy guy who has ideas and used to DJ and did all this stuff, and I'm doing all these and pulling these things together to create this new architecture. And this is one reason I think that, like, especially people with personalities where they get told that they know they're smart, if only they could focus, they could be so successful, and they feel like they're shameful and they feel morally bad because they have high IQs but have bad effort at following through with stuff. I noticed that our personalities are this branching tree structure, and it works both ways. You output and you input, and that means that and basically I started traveling and doing all these new things. I would do experiments for 90 days at a time, and I used to play guitar. Then I left guitaring and traveled to learn languages. And when I came back, I thought I would be rusty after a year, and I started picking up the guitar, and I played better than I had ever played before, because my languages had expanded my mind somehow in a way that somehow my movement of my fingers was better. And so if you're young and you're my personality, like the only thing I can recommend for your 20s is like exposure to different shit, because that exposure creates the mental model of what the world is. And the worst thing is if you never leave the US and you only see that mental model of American pressure culture, and you don't realize that like if you step outside of that, you can see that a lot of the actions that you do and your friends do are not governed by humanity or environment, but governed by culture and also environment, obviously. And that action is different in Italy, or in, like in Italy, my roommates were the same as me, young college kids hanging out. But the difference was that they always had lunch and dinner together, right? Always had lunch and dinner together every day. And you can easily see that through the culture of the country, but you can also see the effects that has on a society, on a family unit, on people. Those friends are still friends today after 20 years, And so what I'm getting at is that the products and solutions you're offering, if you come, like, the best thing about America, the best people in the world are Americans not from America, who've left America, because Americans have this really weird cultural code around the concept of success, and basically the idea of like failure in other countries is a bad thing, but failure in the US is a good thing. Culturally, we kind of see failure as you tried and now you've learned, and now you should get a bigger investment on your next one. And that is easy to say, and some people believe it, some people don't, but culturally Americans have this built into our DNA, and we cannot pull it out. The idea of try it, let's see what sticks, fuck it, ship it, right? And that same culture does not exist whatsoever in Germany or Europe or Asia. And that's why companies in America will have innovative, stupid ideas. And 90% of them are stupid as fuck and waste money, but 10% of them or 1% of them succeed with really great success because it was worth it. But that idea would have never been fleshed out ever in Germany, because it could never have arisen ever, because the culture prevented it. So what I'm getting at is, if you step outside your little box and see it from a different perspective, especially if you're the absorption mindset that I am, what you will create in the future cannot be predicted, but I guarantee you that the value will be ROI positive. Plus, you get to fucking travel during your 20s. So go do it, right? Maybe, yeah.
Dude, Maneesh, we talked about a ton of stuff today, man. Your journey with Pavlok has been inspiring, because many people would have given up, right? First idea came, we're in 2020 right now. First idea for this came back in 2012,
7
2013,
years.
7, 8 years ago, right? Took you over a year to even just ship the first prototype. Then you go get press, you do Kickstarter campaigns, you raise your first $1 million, get, I believe you had investors too, right? Did you have VC or no?
No VC, but we raised some investors, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Friends and family.
So anyway, early success, great. Then you go on Shark Tank, bad press, could have crippled you, but you had the self-awareness to realize like, okay, cool. We got to focus, like eliminate the new ideas right now. Let's focus on creating a better product and also changing it. You did a lot of fundamental changes with the product with where you are now and changing it from being like a pain killer to presenting a new opportunity, which completely opens the door for a cultural shift within your product. So that's amazing stuff, man. It's really, really cool because so many people want that fast success. They want that like lightning in a bottle, scale to 1 million, scale to 10 million, scale to 50 million in no time flat. And it's fun to hear these other stories of like, okay, I believe in my product that much. I believe in what it can do to change its users, to change the world, that like there is success here. I just need to find the right road, find the right path.
Yeah,
What a
I think that like
fascinating conversation.
the thing too is that like people have like crazy ideas, and the average person around them will tell them that it's crazy or stupid, right? And it trains you to like look at your ideas like you feel bad about even telling people about it. And like the kind of people, like my friends in high school always would say I was so weird for the ideas I would have, and those kids from high school are still in the same town working at gas stations, right? And so like the hard part I think for people is that they don't realize that they're allowed to look at things the other way. Like I remember what was it with like some kind of push, oh yeah, like a push notification. I was like, why don't you like, oh, there's a new web push feature, have you considered using that on your website to deliver sales, right? And my friend was like, oh no, that wouldn't work for us. The channel that works for us is email. And I was like, that's interesting because you're probably right. Like probably it's a waste of time, and it's going to be, it's like not a good investment for you to do it. I get it. But the conceptual framework of saying that without even, the first filter is it different than what I'm doing? Then no, is such a conceptual filter that it's going to destroy the good ideas as much as the bad ideas. And my own personality is the opposite, which is also not good, which is love the new idea and then get distracted by the new idea and forget about the old one, right? And so the balance has to be made. And I truly believe that the balance is pretty simple. It's you combine a me with an integrator and you say, let me make the good ideas and understand that I'm not going to deliver on those ideas. And he integrates those ideas. And if they need to get something done, then it gets done together in the room at the same time. You put those two people together, because that's the crazy part. People are always trying to do self-improvement, and it's fucking stupid. What one individual in the history of humanity has ever done great things himself? I mean, I guess you could look at authors, but like very rarely is it a person. It's usually teams. It's almost always teams. No one person programmed all of the iPhone, right? It was Jobs can't fucking program. He had no idea. So he found other people who surrounded him who could execute on his ridiculous ideas. And that fundamental framework, here's the thing, man, like you've heard me talk about this and you've seen like my stuff on personality types and stuff, right? Like I fundamentally believe that there is very much something to be said about personality types. And I think it's very useful. You know, the debate is a whole long one, but I think that if you choose any 4 metrics to segment anybody on, you're going to get interesting data results. And so I think that, first of all, it's weird to me that there is no, like we have Google that does search intent marketing, and you have Facebook that does persona marketing, but you never have anybody doing like personality marketing or affecting or changing their product based on personality types. And there's like very, very rarely do you see people segment their users in ways that are supposed to work just for them. And so the big theory I'm working here with is that we have this concept of the sensor core, is what we call it, where we input a lot of data from everybody, and you correlate your own data against yourself. And you're like, oh, the days that I walked 5,000 steps, I tended to lose weight. Therefore, we should do an experiment to ask you to walk that many steps and measure your weight, right? And the idea is that if we can import this data about individuals have a large segment of that data is my personality belief quiz structure that I wrote myself based on Myers-Briggs and Enneagram. And if we can import that data and then make predictions against that data based on your personality, and if we get enough scale where we can automate these predictions, so we're giving good predictions to good personalities and bad predictions to good personalities to see what the crossover success rate is, I believe that we'll be able to actually create like a large scale predictive analytic coaching platform that will know you and help you achieve your goal and have low chances of failure. And I'm thinking it'll be pretty cool. And yeah, at the end of the day, and then the cool part there is that it's not about getting you to do it. It's about rewarding you when you do it. So we're just like, based on your analytics, you're going to have trouble not eating until noon. So we're going to give you 1,000 volts extra if you don't eat until noon, because that way our analytics will predict it'll actually work to succeed. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. So we're about to run out of time. So where can people reach out to you? Obviously Pavlok.com, but like where can people find out more?
Follow my Facebook if you want to see me post amazing content. Facebook.com/msethi. Did you get a push notification from Pavlok yesterday about Portland snow? Yep. Yeah, if you want, you could download the Pavlok app and wait for me to accidentally send random push notifications to hundreds of thousands of people. That's an alternative. But yeah, basically Pavlok.com, or if you go to Facebook/msethi, that's the best place. And if you hit me up on Messenger, I like Joel. Hit me up on Messenger if you want a Pavlok, I'll get you 40 or 50% off code. So Facebook.com/msethi, and just mention the interview.
Awesome, dude. It's been a pleasure. Super brilliant individual. I just love hearing you rant. I let you rant for a long time because it's good stuff.
Yeah,
so
I hope you cut like 2/3 of this. No one's gonna listen this far.
Well, so if you're listening to this right now, reach out to Maneesh. Super funny guy, super great guy to talk to, super great guy to follow. I'm an avid user of Pavlok. I need to wear it more because I've got some things that I'm trying to.
So you're wearing an Apple Watch, right?
Fitbit.
You want to try the new one? The clip?
Yeah, I would love to. We'll work on my Fitbit.
Yeah, I'll get you one when it's in a couple weeks.
Okay, sweet. Cool. All right, so if you reach out to Maneesh and let him know you heard him on Experts Unleashed, and just give him a shout out, let him know that give him some love, because he's a brilliant guy, very smart individual, and his products work. I can attest to that. So Maneesh, thanks again, man, and for everyone listening, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Easy.